All right, are you ready for theme number 2? Let's go ahead and see what's on the docket for today. So I gave you your daily smile, and now here's your daily how-to. All right, so Jenny here just finished the cutest half square triangle quilt. Isn't that fun? So simple, right? She even took it a step further. She put a zipper in the back so that she could insert a pillow form in it. And this ends up being 14 inch by 14 inch. But what I want to share with you today is a technique that I share oftentimes, whoops, in the classes I teach about how to do, it's almost like multitasking, because you're going to be able to work on one project while actually making the blocks for the second project. So what does that exactly mean? Well, let me talk you through it. So this is based off of half square triangles. But when she was making this, guess what she was doing beforehand? She was making these star blocks, which consist of flying geese. All around the square are flying geese, all right? So we've got several of these going on. And so she was making the flying geese blocks to go into stars, but at the same time, she was able to make the cutest half square triangle pillow you ever did see. I might just have to steal this. If she's watching, I'm just gonna kind of, just accidentally drop it into my car, right? It is so cute. I love it so much. So how did she do these blocks and this at the same exact time? Here we go. This is how you do it. So I'm going to bring the camera right over here, and I have a little sample block out here. If I were doing flying geese blocks, you know that you would put a square right side down against the rectangle, and you would sew it from on a diagonal line, and you would pull it back, and you would do the same thing on the other side. Whoops, where did my other square go? Oh my goodness, you know me, I'm always losing stuff. Okay, I'll just do this one for an example. And it's a little bit longer, but that's okay. And you would go this way and pull it out. So between these two, you would end up having this flying geese block, somewhat, okay? This is, again, just an example of what I'm saying. So when you do a snowball block, what I like to call a snowball block, you're sewing, you're making a diagonal line from corner to corner, and you sew directly on that diagonal line from corner to corner. Then you're able to pull this back on top of itself, and what do you do with what's remaining? Well, you trim off the background, right? You'd be trimming this off, and then that would go to waste. Let me show you how to not make that go to waste and how you can actually end up doing two projects at one time. So one of my favorite tools out there is called the Quilters Magic Wand. So if you have anything like a 1/4 inch seam marker, that will work out great too, as well as any ruler will do it. It just takes another step. But having the Quilters Magic Wand, this is by Studio 180, and I absolutely love all their products. But it has a very finite laser line drawn down the middle. This is a 1/2 inch ruler. On each side of the line is a 1/4 inch. Okay, so if I were normally, again, if I were normally to do a snowball block, I would draw a line from corner to corner and sew directly on that line, pull this back, and I would cut off the excess. But if you want to try doing two things at once, this is what you do instead. You will draw that line on just like normal, but you will also add a second line. Okay, so let me draw that line on. And because this is automatically a 1/2 inch away, I just keep the marker where it's at, And I'm going to draw a second line on the other side. So here you can see that I have drawn two lines. One that goes from corner to corner, and then one that goes just a ½ inch beyond. Now I'll take you over to the machine. I'm sewing on the Janome 3160 today. And again, I'm going to sew directly on that line, but then I'm going to turn it around and sew on the second line. Alrighty. Okay. If I were doing a whole bunch of them, I would just do what's called chain piecing, where I would just continue to pull it through. But I'll just turn this around like that. Oops. And now I'll sew down the second line. Using my automatic scissors to cut my threads. Okay, so you can see right there that both lines have been sewn on. So now let's take you back over to the cutting table. And with my ruler, I'll just place it right down the center of those two lines. And there we go. So that gives me this. Now I don't have anything to waste. Take a look, it's already been sewn. Now I have a ½ square triangle. Isn't that great? Plus, I have the first part of my Flying Geese block. How simple was that? So just by adding an extra line, I was able to do both at the same time. And if you're wanting to make something like this, it doesn't matter, whoops, what you square these up to, because all this is just ½ square triangles, one right after another. So it really doesn't matter the size, okay? So then I could take my ½ square triangle ruler and I could trim that up to be, let's say if I were doing 2½ inches, and there we'd go. So I have this one and this one both done at the same time. Now another thing that people will do is that they could just go ahead and do this one first, and a lot of people will save these not sewn together, but they'll save them in a whole big pile and for later on, and later on they'll go back and they'll use these pieces as what you might call leaders and enders. So you know when you want to, you're chain piecing something and you want to start off with a piece, so a leader, or you end all of your chain piecing and you end with an ender, leader or ender. That's when they'll sew those. So it's up to you. There's a couple ways you could do it. So rather than getting rid of the excess that you already were cutting off from behind, because you want to get rid of that bulk, save them, use it as leaders and enders, or just take one extra step to just draw a second line, cut it apart. Now you already have this sewn and this one sewn both at the same time. Okay, and so she again was able to make not only this cute piece, but she was making her Flying Geese blocks for the stars all at once, all at one setting. Isn't that great? So are there any questions out there? Let's see. Someone asked, what foot am I using on my Janome? It looks like I'm just using the regular foot. I don't have a 1/4 inch presser foot on there. It's the one that just comes on the machine. And I just used, I just moved my needle over to the 1/4 inch position, and I was able to get my 1/4 inch. So great question. Let's see. Betty Jo says, I'm really liking this idea. I always save my corner scraps, but now they'll already be done. Yeah, you can use this technique and be able to just go ahead and sew those half square triangles, and now you have another great project for you. All right. Peggy shares, this is pretty awesome time saver and fabric non-waster. That's exactly right, Peggy. If you don't like to waste fabric and you just cringe when you have to cut off the backing of that, don't do that to yourself. Just take it one extra step and add it. Just sew another line and you've got one ready to go. I think this is so cute what she did as a pillow, but I think this would be such a cute table topper as well. I just love the simplicity of this. This is something that you don't need a pattern for, right? Anyone can do it, and just take those half square triangles and get them sewn up like this, and look what a cute project you've just made. A lot of you are saying you never save them. Yeah, there was a time when I didn't save them either. I just thought, oh, forget about it. But now I keep them in a little box and I just throw them in there. And then that way, if I don't have a specific project in mind, so obviously, you know, Jenny had this specific thing that she wanted to do, keeping all the same colors with the white background, with the other side being white, and that worked out great. But if you wanted to just throw a whole bunch in a bin and you wanted to come up with something super scrappy later on, you could absolutely do that and just throw caution to the wind and just pull out those half square triangles and just zip them up. It's pretty slick. All right, Laura saves everything. Peggy says, now I can save them. Yeah, you'll be bummed at yourself that you didn't save them a lot sooner, right? Yes. Barb shares, good idea to sew them both at the same time. Yeah, it really is a great time saver. I mean, yes, it takes one extra step, but it's worth it because look, you were able to do both at the same time. So, all righty. What other questions do we have out there? Yep, Betty Jo shares that would have been great for when we did the half square triangle exchange. Yeah, if it really is fun because again, it's so scrappy. So if you are ever wanting to do a half square triangle exchange with someone, this would be a great way to go, and tell people just start saving those you know, those pieces that are behind your blocks, and you've got a super scrappy quilt, which is really a lot of fun. All right. Ooh, this is a great idea, Sue. Sue shared it can become a history quilt, a quilt of all your quilts. I love that. Something going on with my shirt here. Okay, so that is such a great idea, Sue. And wouldn't that be fun? Because the scrappier the better, throw them all in, and then one day it will almost be like an I Spy quilt. Like, oh, I remember when I did that, or look at that, you know. So I remember it came from that quilt, or from grandma's shirt, or you know, whatever, or your baby's christening gown. You know, there's so many different things that people will use in their quilts, especially when they're trying to make them even extra special. So being able to do something like that would be really fun and easy.